civilization cycle. Interviews experts and individuals who understand the intensifying cycle of economic, societal, and government upheaval, so you can stay ahead of the changes in our world and keep your family safe. Fortunately for us, we can recognize that we're at the precipice, a point in history where we can all see the cycle changing. Where we go from here is up to us. So let's start the conversation, and welcome to the show.
I got a complicated view about aliens. See, I'm not really sure if you're prepared for this answer. Me, I think that we're the aliens.
I had some experience as a child of being visited.
One of my first memories I have, if not the first memory, is of something looking at me and just observing me that wasn't human.
I was a captive audience at age 4 in Midland, Texas. I see this entity walking away from my little bed, and the thing is real skinny. He's got a bulbous head.
By some kind of a praying mantis-like being.
Something was looking at me and observing me that was not human. And I think it could have been insectoid-like, possibly.
All right, so I'm about to call Jordan Maxwell, and I don't know if you call it an interview or not. I'm pretty much just going to let him talk. I mean, because nobody wants to hear me, right? Anyway, so here we go.
Hello.
How's it going, Mr. Maxwell?
I don't know. Nobody ever tells me anything, so.
Nobody tells you anything?
Nope. Looks like everything's all right for the moment.
All right. So I got you here on Skype, and you're on my YouTube channel. I'm honored to have you as a guest.
Well, thank you. And is it coming in clear enough?
Yes, you're coming in loud and clear.
Good. Okay. Where do we go from here?
Well, I would figure you were you're the expert in that area. Where do we go from here?
Well, I would suggest you introduce me, and then I'll take it from there.
Okay. Well, this is Jordan Maxwell. He's got, well, I'd say 50 years of research into the occult, theology, and the hidden meanings behind language and symbols. So yeah, I'm a small timer on that, but I'm so fascinated with trying to figure out what's what in the world that I figure you're the best person to talk to about that.
Well, I thank you, and I've been doing this kind of speaking about these subjects as far back as 1959. That's actually 59 years ago.
Wow.
Next year it will be 60 years I've been talking about these subjects. And they're very not only interesting, but they're too important not to know about.
Yeah.
And so I say they're interesting to explore, but they're too important to ignore. And that is how our language works, how our world works, how the system that we live under works. People don't know how things work, and that's why they get in trouble.
Yes.
You get in trouble with the law, you get in trouble when you have to go to court. Some people go to jail, and other people lose everything they own. And, people get locked into the military and ended up being killed, and so people just get in trouble all around the world Why? Because nobody seems to know how this charade circus we call life, how it really works.
That's right.
And so that's what I've been trying to do for going on 60 years now,
Yeah.
is trying to educate people to how the world really works. And I will guarantee you, I don't care where you are in life, I don't care what your education background is, I don't care how many degrees you have by your name and how smart you think you are. I will guarantee you, you don't know how the world works. You think you do, and some people know a little bit about certain things, but the world's much, much, much more deeper than you think it is, and it's a lot of been around for long time. The world has, and so it's perfected itself in its criminality and all the dark stuff that goes on in the world that we're not aware of.
Yeah, and there's a lot of it.
Oh God, yeah. The world's just crammed filled with all kinds of secrets and dirty criminal stuff going on and ripping off of old people and stealing everything people have, and it's just a terrible situation. And I don't think there's I've said this before and I believe it. I don't think the human race is ever going to be able to do anything about the injustices in the world. And I don't. I think it's even less now. We had a chance. I think we had a somewhat of a chance back in the 1770s when the U.S. of A. was founded. What was his name? Thomas Paine.
Yeah.
Yeah, Thomas Paine said, looking at the founding of the United States of America, and he said, for the first time, we have a chance to remake the world. It was almost as if everyone knew that what was being done in the founding of the United States of America had never, ever been done before. It was an extremely different thing that was happening, whereby government was being divided into three parts, and nobody was going to be able to have more power than anybody else, and parts of the government were going to be dependent on other parts of the government for permission, and so people would be protected from their government. They would have freedoms and protections and Bill of Rights and all that kind of thing, and so that's never been done before.
And the idea of individual liberty.
Yeah, individual liberty, right, exactly. And nobody's ever heard of that. And so when the powers that be, back in 1770s, that was the royalty of Europe and the royalty around the world, but especially in Europe, when they heard that there was a new kind of government being formed, and it was guaranteeing people their freedom and individual liberties and freedoms to do what they want and to worship the way they wish and be who they are and do what they do. And well, the people who were in power in Europe immediately said, "No, thank you. That's not going to happen. No way."
Yeah. I mean, how can you let people have the pursuit of happiness?
Yeah, well, they want to make damn sure that there is no happiness and you don't pursue nothing. You need to sit down and shut up and drink your beer and watch TV.
That's right.
And
Which
so
I don't do either of those things.
well, there's a lot of people awakening to the fact that these were all put there to keep you occupied so you don't think too much and get in the way of your masters who own you. And so, I'm just amazed how much people don't know about the world they live in and the government they live under. And
it's like like I've heard you before talk about this, and ever since I've heard you say it, I've realized it more and more that it dominates every aspect of everyone's life. Is that there's two law systems going on here. There's the Constitution, the law of the land, which everybody believes we live under. And then, like you said, about maritime law, and like everything else is maritime law. None of it's based on the individual or the law of the land that we're supposed to live on.
That's right. That's right. That's why when you go to a courtroom, that's where you see it mostly. That's where you can really see it is in a courtroom, but people don't know what I'm talking about. But in the courtroom, you see the law of the land hitting and confronting the law of the sea. You see, it's thousands of years ago, even before the Roman Empire existed. We're talking about back in the ancient Grecian Empire, before Rome even existed. There was already the idea being expressed in governments of Europe, that in Asia also, that there were two kinds of law on the earth, because there are only two things on the earth. There's land and water.
That's right.
That's it. There's land or water. And so it was decided thousands of years ago. We weren't told this, but it was decided thousands of years ago that there should be two kinds of law. One should be a law that applies to land, and one should be a law that applies to the sea. And so today we still have something we refer to as the law of the land. And so you've heard that term in school, and from now, once in a while you'll hear that term again, the law of the land.
Yeah, usually only with arguments about constitutionalities.
Yeah, right. And so most people don't realize that. Why do you use that term, law of the land? Well, because if you understand law, there's a second law on the earth, the law of the sea, the law of water.
Yeah.
And so the law of the land is the law or the custom of the people that live on a particular spot of land. And so the custom of the people that live on a particular piece of land is referred to as the law of the land. Why? Because the ancient Romans in their law, one of the maxims of Roman law was the will of the people is the voice of God. Meaning that whatever the people in a particular area want and believe, and this is the way they live, and this is what they want, the Romans said, so be it. That's it. So whatever the people say they want and whatever the people say they believe, that's fine. That's the way it is then. And so if you're going to go visit there, well, then you better find out, what the law of the land is, because it's the law of the custom of the people that live in that particular kind of land. And so today, you can do things in, say, China you can't do in South Africa. You can do things in Russia you cannot do in the United States. You can do things in Australia you can't do in Panama. So every country has a different culture of people. And that culture of that people is the law of the land, the law of that land.
That's right.
And so when in Rome, do as the Romans do. So if you're going to go to another country, you don't act like you act in your own country. You're in a different country. You're in a different culture. So you'll learn what they do and what they eat and how they view things, and learn their laws,
That's survival 101 is to know what the locals know.
That's exactly right. So you are abiding by the law of the land. However, there is a far more important law on the earth that makes the earth work. It's called the law of the sea, the law of water. And that is what we call money. It's called the law of the sea. The law of water is banking law. That's why we say things like money goes through your hands like water. I've heard that for years. Yeah, well, money goes through your hands like water. No, actually, money is water. Money is considered to be the liquid asset.
That's right, currency.
It's the cash. Yeah, it's the cash flow. And so it's water. And so money does go through your hands like water because money is considered by international law to be water. And it's a flow. And this is why you put your money into banks. Why? Because you have a river bank. And what does a river bank do? It directs the flow of the currency because your
right.
money is called currency. Why? Because it is a current. It's an ebb and flow, like the ocean. The tide comes in, the tide goes out. The waves come in, the waves go out.
Right.
The money comes in, the money goes out. It's an ebb and flow. It's a currency. And so you put it into the bank, which is a river bank, and the river bank directs the flow of the currency. And so once you see how that works, money is water, and then you find out that money, there's a whole world of knowledge about how money is negotiated and how it operates around the globe. All over the world, nations of the world have their own economics, and yet the whole entire world is connected to one operation. It's called maritime admiralty law, the law of money.
Yeah.
And that's a whole story.
Is this I mean, not to cut you off on this, but I know you knew Zachariah Sitchin and worked with him.
Yep.
And whenever I read these books, like the Book of Inky and stuff like that, they always talk about how when Lulu and Inky first got there, they came in the water and they wore fish suits and they set up kind of on the water first before he moved into land. So is that why everything's based like off of that point that he came from the water, he was the ruler of the water, and so everything that they built from then on out is
based on the water.
Yeah. And the rules that were set up with him being the master of it.
Yeah, that's right. And since your body is over 76% water, you are considered by law, under international law, a man or woman, a human being, is considered by law to be a maritime product. And so, because you are 76% water, and when you were born, you came out of your mother's water.
That's right.
So her water broke, and you came out. Well, and then when you came out, you were covered with water, and your lungs were breathing water when you were in your mother, and then you come out, and so now your body is 76% water. So you are considered a banking product. You are a human resource.
Is that why it's the natural? Like as soon as someone, any kind of family or business or anything, when they always call that, like you said, underwater, like whenever they're broke and they're
of course
in debt, they run to the bank, like the bank would save them. I mean, not like they're going to, but and like you said, when it relates to reality, if you're drowning and you're underwater, you're trying to get to the bank to get out and get on the land.
Yeah, that's about it. I think you got it.
Wow. Well, I didn't know that there was like a correlation. I just always thought of that when you said about people being broke and they're underwater. It always made me think of drowning, and then people.
Well, we say people drowning in debt.
Yeah, that's right.
So, let me give you an example. Money goes through your hands like water. Well, because money is considered a liquid asset.
Right.
And so we say things that are all the different terms that we use and say every day that deal with water. For instance, we can say if you're really broken, you're totally out, then we say he's all washed up.
Wow. I didn't even think of that one.
Yeah. And why? Because, he's awash in debt. Wash in debt. Yeah. And so when you go into court, Once you go into court, you're now in hot water,
Wow.
and you're going to need somebody to bail you out.
That's right.
And so, therefore, the banks, they get flooded. They get flooded with bailout money.
Wow, and they do that a lot, don't they?
Yeah, and so your bank account has dried up, or you have an offshore account.
Wow. Yeah.
Or you're drowning in debt.
It's just on and on and on with that, isn't it?
Well, yeah, I'm not through.
Oh.
And so you are laundering dirty money.
Yeah.
And you're doing it in the mainstream. The bank can levy your account. Don't worry, one day your ship will come in, but your house is underwater. And so when you have no cash flow, you float alone at the river bank, which directs the flow of the currency. And so we say not to make waves, because we don't want you to rock the boat here. So the reason why is because we run a tight ship, and we want to know if you're on board.
That's right.
Why? With laundering the money in the mainstream. And if you are, you can work in the shipping department, or the bank will levy your account. And so, even government's called statesmanship, and our government is called the ship of state. And so, let me explain something to you. That first of all, there's so much here I need to go back and set the stage for understanding all of this. First of all, every ship in the world, period, on the earth, any ship, a rocket ship, a sailing ship, any kind of a ship on the water or in the air, or whatever kind of ship it is, all ships must have a captain. That's the law. All ships have a captain. The captain of an airline, that's an airship. Or if you're an astronaut, you're a captain in the astronaut. Yeah, well, that's a rocket ship. Or if you have a sailing ship, well, then there's a captain on the ship. And the captain on any ship is considered to be, by law, God, G-O-D. A captain on any ship is considered to be God. That's the law.
That's right.
Meaning he is the law, period. Whatever he says, he's the law. You don't think so? You mess with a captain on board ship and they'll throw you in the brig so quick, throw you into a jail and report you when you get back on land, and you go into prison.
Yeah.
Because why? Because the captain said so. Period.
Yeah.
So therefore, you need to understand that when a ship pulls into harbor, I was going to say all ships on the earth, any kind of a ship, is always a female. It's always female by law.
That's right.
Any ship. Why? Because the captains always say, when they're talking about their ship, they always say, oh, she's a good ship, and she's done well, and she's this, and she's that. Why she? Why is the ship she? It's because the ship delivers the product. An airship, an airliner is called an airship. It's delivering a product.
Yeah.
What is the product? It's you. You are the product. And so the shipping company is making money by shipping you. And so all ships are female because the females produce the product. So in a marriage, the male manufactures, but the female is in labor, creating the product for the man. But he manufactured, and then the female is producing the product, and she's in labor, building the product.
Yeah.
And so, do you understand? So
Yes.
now we talk. So
You just made
now,
another epiphany to me too, because you went through the whole maritime, like with the ships and the government and everything. So I guess that's why when a military person or wants to be in the military and they can't handle the maritime system, they get washed out.
that's it. You get washed out.
Wow.
That's it. And so when the ship is female, all ships are female. So when a sailing ship, like these big ocean liners, pull into a harbor, say from Japan with $800 million worth of TVs or Toyotas or whatever, the ship pulls into a harbor. Where it parks is called its berth, Berth, a berth.
Yeah.
So the ship is sitting in her berth. And so every piece of merchandise coming off that ship must have its own paperwork. Each car or each TV, each item must have its own paperwork. So it's referred to, the paperwork on board ship is referred to as a certificate of manifest. Why? Because yesterday, when we were all at the harbor, there was no ship here. But when you came in this morning to work, there's a ship sitting here. So it has manifested. Well, not only has it manifested, but it manifested $800 million worth of Toyotas also.
Yeah.
And so each piece has to have its own certificate of manifest. What are you talking about? Well, we want to know how much does it weigh and what color is it? And is it 2 doors or 4 doors? And what color is it? Does it have air conditioning, etc.? And what was the make and the model, etc.? And so why? Because we need a certificate to show its value and what it is that was delivered. And so this is why when when your mother is in her birth, she gives birth to you. And so the ship, she is in her birth. The ship is in her birth, and she's giving birth to you. And when you come out, you have to have a certificate, so it's called a birth certificate. And so when you get a birth certificate, it tells us, what are you, a Ford or a Chrysler or a television or what? No, you're a man. You've got 2 eyes, yeah. Do you have 2 legs? Yep, okay. And what color is he? He's black or he's brown. And who makes him? China or Japan or wherever. So that we now know what we've just added to the business of this world. We now know there's a new Japanese man and 2 black girls and 1 guy from China. And so that's the way they keep track on your birth certificate, because you are a maritime admiralty product and you came in on your mother's birth. And so your birth certificate has to be signed by the dock, because that's where the ship is sitting. It's at the dock. So the dock signs your birth certificate, and now you are a maritime admiralty product or a human resource. You're not a man or a woman. You're just here to make money, and the government's going to make money off of you. Corporations are going to make money off of you.
Yeah.
You might even possibly make a few dollars yourself, but you are a business. And this is what people do not understand. If you're a man or a woman or a child, by law, you are considered to be a corporation. You are a business. And your wife or your girlfriend is also a business. She is a corporation. Just like General Electric and General Motors and Ford Motor Company, your body, as a man, you are a corporation. And so that's why you, as a corporation, if you're going to get married, then she's a corporation. So now one corporation is going to do business with another corporation. So when I see you coming out of a restaurant, say 2 o'clock in the morning with some girl, and the next day I say to you, that girl I saw you with last night, yeah, she is bad company. And you say to me, mind your own business. Business? Company? Yeah, and then I find out you're going to get married and she's going to be your partner.
Yeah.
What are we talking about? Partner and business and company? And so therefore you are a corporation. And therefore one corporation is going to do some business, and thank God what you're going to do is none of my business.
Right.
And what I'm doing, it ain't none of your business.
Is that
Business.
what? Is that why it's so important? Is that why there's such a big thing about listing the father on the birth certificate because he's the manufacturer, like you said?
That's right. That's exactly right. It has to do with where did it come from? Well, it came from your father. Oh, really? Was that German
Yeah.
or Italian or what? And so, because why? Because you are a product. And so, if we're going to sell you later because you are a human resource, well, maybe who we're going to sell you to, they don't like Germans.
Yeah.
They wanted an African. Okay, well then find a resource that's got an African manufacturer. That's the way it works. So anyway, and so now you understand why you have to have a marriage license. You have to have a marriage license because you're doing business. It's called sex. If you go to the library or get a law dictionary and look up the word commerce. Commerce is business.
Yeah.
Well, look up the word commerce in a dictionary. Look it up what lawyers know. If you're going to talk about a word, find out what you're talking about. Go to a law dictionary and look up the word commerce. And it will tell you that in law, the word commerce means sex. It's just business. Happily, that's none of my business. and who I sleep with is none of your business.
That's right.
But it is business. Why? Well, because if something happens, you don't go to the Lord and talk to the Lord Jesus. You're going to court.
That's right.
And you better bring your house and your money and your car and anything else you own, son, because that's just business.
And that seems to be everybody's side action is trying to get
Of
into
course.
your business. They want
That's
in your
right.
business. What are you doing? What do you got?
Yeah, and I would say it's none of my business who I'm sleeping with. That's my business. And then so but if you're going to make it legal and join two corporations, that's fine. Anybody can do that, but you better get a license. Why? Because there's two corporations and they're doing business. And you don't do any business in this country unless you cut the government in on it.
Yeah.
Period. You show the taxes, you pay the fines and fees, and you get the attorney, and you sign the contract. Now you can do business. And if you come together and create a new product, like a baby, that product belongs to the corporation that gave you the license. Because if they're giving you a license, that means they have the power, you don't. So you need to get the license from them. Why? Because they are the boss, not you. Well, if they give you permission to do something, then they are part of what you're doing. And so when the baby is born, it has three parents, you, your wife, and the government. And you don't think so? Wait till the government decides to come take your child from you.
Yeah.
And then you'll find
It's
out.
terrifying, too, that people don't realize that they don't have control. Like you said, they don't understand how anything works and that
That's
they don't
right.
have any control over it either.
That's exactly right. And then when you get to understand, my goodness, there's just so many avenues we could go from this because it's a very big subject of how the world works. Let me give you
It's even
another
worse
example.
now, though, because like the simple language or the layman's language, the people on the streets right now, and they don't even know that.
No, they have no idea in the world about any of this. So, first of all, I would ask, and I do this all the time. I ask audiences, how many states in our federal union, how many states are there? And most people will say, if they're smart and educated, they'll say 50.
Yeah.
President Obama said the 47, the 47 states. So damn stupid, he didn't know there was 48, and then we added 2. That makes it 50, not 47.
Yeah.
But that's okay. He didn't know from crap anyway. But but so you say, how many states are there? Well, there's 48. There's 2. That's 50. Actually, no. There's 51, and that's not even correct. There's
Is that
there's
Puerto
50.
Rico?
No.
Okay.
51 states in our federal union. We got the state of California, the state of Texas, the state of New York, and the state of Israel.
That's right.
Yep. So that's why the United States is spending so much money in Israel, because it's a state of. It's the state of Israel, like the state of Alabama, and the state of Florida, and the state of California.
That's right.
It's the state of Israel. It's part of our federal establishment, period. Now, the other thing, though, is that we're talking about the 50 states in our union. How many states are in our union? Like I said, most people, if they're educated enough, will tell you there's 50 states.
Yeah.
To which I say no, no, and no. There's not 50 states. There's 100 states. Completely and totally different 100 states in our federal union. You just didn't know it. So here's the way you understand that there's 100 states in our union. Every state is 2 states. But you are not supposed to know that. All you need to do is drink your beer and watch basketball and shut up. But there are actually 2 states. In California, you have something called California State. And in California, we call it Cal State. So we got Cal State Northridge University and Cal State Long Beach College, Cal State this and Cal State that. Well, Cal State is California State. But you also have something called the state of California. Oh, that's different. California State is one thing, but state of California is totally different. So that's why you have to know what you're doing when you're dealing with government and state government. Are you dealing with the California state government, or are you dealing with the government of the state of California? Because they're not the same at all.
Wow.
California State, like Alabama State or New York State or Kansas State, when you say the name of the state first, California State, California State is that property we call California, that division of property, that land.
Yeah.
With its borders, that's called California State. But the state of California is the federal government operating inside of California. So you have a state government, but you also got federal laws here. You also have federal jurisdiction here. So you got 2 governments going here. You got the state government, and then you got the federal government. So the state government has the name of the state, like California State. The federal is called the state of California. So it's not California, but it is a state within the state. And so, people don't realize there are 2 states. So now we've got 100 states. Well, the same thing is true for you. There's 2 of you. There's the flesh and blood, the one that bleeds, the one that wakes up, the one that eats. The flesh and blood you is one thing. But there's 2 of you. By law, there is always 2 of you. There is a private you and a public you. The private you is your body, your personal, physical, blood and flesh body. And there is, and this is something you need to listen and understand. There is no law in this country or on the earth. There is no law that applies to you as a flesh and blood person. None.
Yeah,
There is no law that applies to you.
that's exactly why none of the state police agencies are respecting your body as being part of the Fourth Amendment.
Yep. Well, that's exactly right. But it has to do even bigger with the idea that your body is a private corporation. And of course, if you one private corporation, which is Ford Motor Company, is going to do business with Eli Lilly Company, a glass company, well, that's their business. But you need to get a permit, you need to pay a license and fee, and ask permission. And so the idea is that there's two of you. There's a private you and there's a public you. So if you owe me $5,000 and you don't pay me, I cannot, by law, I cannot come to your home and steal something from you that's worth $5,000 to get my money back. That you can't do that. Why? Because you're mixing apples and oranges. Because your private self, I have no control over whatsoever. I can't tell you who to sleep with, I can't tell you what to eat, and I can't tell you nothing. And so the private you is not in debt to me at all. It's the public you that's in debt to me. So I cannot come to your home. I cannot do anything to you and your home or your family if you owe me money. I can take you to court and deal with the government, bring the government into it and deal in court. But now that's public. Lots of people are going to be in the courtroom. And this is going, and whatever that happens is going to be on the record, and people can go back 20 years from now and look at what you did, or look at what I did, and they can see the case. It's a public record. So therefore, there's two of you. There's the public you, which I can deal with in court, but there's the private you I can't deal with. And so understanding that, then there are two kinds of law. There's the public and the private law. Now, how do you know which way I am dealing with you, public or private? Well, the way you tell that in law, the way I can tell if I was a lawyer and looking at a case that you're involved in, I can tell immediately how I'm going to deal with you, because I'm not going to be able to deal with you privately. It has nothing to do with private. But I would deal with you lawfully in public, okay? So how do you tell the difference between you and the public and you and the private? It's how you sign your name. If you sign your name with the first letter being capital and the rest lowercase, upper and lowercase, then upper and lowercase, that represents your flesh and blood body. That's your personal flesh and blood self. And your name is what starts with a capital letter, then lowercase, capital letter, and lowercase. I have no way at all to deal with a capital and lowercase name in a court. I cannot deal with it in court. That's your personal, private self. So the only way to know how to deal with you in the public is the way you spell your name. And so in the public, your name must be in all capital letters, period. Your driver's license, your insurance company, your gas card, your grocery bill, your house payment, car payment, I don't care what it is. If it's a piece of business of any kind, your name must be in all capital letters, period. End of sentence.
That's so ironic. I mean, I've never heard that part before, but all of my aliases, as far as entertainment or whatever, like my channel and my name's on Twitter and Facebook, I always capitalize the whole thing if it's not my name. But like that's just a coincidence. But yeah, so my I guess stage name is all caps, but when I write my name as a person, I always
upper and lowercase.
Yes. I didn't even know that was a thing.
Well, that's the correct way to do it by law. The actual correct way in law, if you're in court, and if you're in a federal court, and I'm suing you, and here on my lawsuit, I have your name right here in front of the judge on this lawsuit, and it's an upper and lower case, the judge will throw it out. You don't have a case. Get out of here. It's over.
Wow.
Why? Because the only way you can deal with another man, another human, is with all capital letters, because that is your public persona. That's your public name.
Yeah.
I can't deal with you in the private. I got no dealing with you in private. Now, understand as a private and a public you. Well, if you go to a restaurant with, say, 10 of your friends, and you're sitting in the back corner of the restaurant in a private conversation, you can, the way the world works, you can use any language you please, any cursing or any foul language you wish, and call anybody you wish anything you want. As long as your friends don't mind, you can say anything you want about anybody. I don't care what color, nationality, or what. Why? Because that's a private conversation between you and your friends. So what you say in private is nobody's business but you and your friends.
Yeah.
But if you go on radio or go out on the stage before a huge audience and start using those same terms and those same words and cursing, that's totally different. That's a whole different story. No longer is it private conversation. The government is empowered to protect the people. And so when you're using language like that, you're hurting other people's feelings. You are angering them, and so they have a right to come in and put you in jail. You can be sued and put in jail for using curse words and stuff, and calling people names and racial terms and all of that in public.
So are you telling me that legally you only have free speech in private?
Yeah, you only have free speech in private. That's exactly right. You can say whatever you want in public, as long as you watch your mouth, because if you say anything against somebody else, or you call them by some derogatory term, then you can get in trouble.
Yeah.
You know that as well as I do. If you go out and start calling people racist terms and calling them all kinds of names, they can sue you for libel and sue you for calling them those terms. Why? Because it's in public. They don't care if you're a Ku Klux Klanman and you really are cursing and ranting and raving about blacks or Jews or whoever. As long as you're in the church with the rest of your Klan members and it's private, just between you and your friends in church, that's private. That's not public. But if you go out on radio and start talking the same way, now you're getting in trouble. Now you could be in trouble. The police can arrest you. And it'd be a good thing if they did, because maybe somebody's going to kill you for what you said. Right? And so there's a difference between the private you and the public you. That's all I'm trying to say.
Yeah, that's why they keep coming up with all of these new terms.
That's right.
I can't even keep track of them. There's
I know.
Gender fluidity and a trans this, trans that, or a hate speech is seems like a new term to me. I know people spoke with hate before, but now it's a thing that they're trying to prosecute you for.
Oh, of course. Now, here's some more. When the ship pulls into a harbor, as I said, she's a good ship, and she pulls into harbor, and she's got all this, merchandise above, and she's got it all on her. So she is delivering the product. Well, that's what your mother did. She was in labor delivering you. She was in a delivery room. And she delivered a product, which was you. And so that's why you have to have a birth, B-E-R-T-H, birth certificate. It's got to be signed by the doc, because that's where she was sitting, by the doc in her birth. Okay, so now what you need to understand is that, now just hold on and let me think about how to say this. There's two kinds of law, the land and sea, the land and the ocean. All right, in Latin, the sea, the S-E-A, the water, the land, and the sea and the ocean, is M-E-R, mer. Mer as in mermaid,
Yeah.
or mer, mer is the sea. And so we say, and we've even had songs that say that the sea is enchanting.
There are few things you can count on in a major disaster. Having your water supply cut off is one of them. With the Alexa Pure Emergency Water Bank, you'll have months of drinking water in your home. Everyone else will stand in line waiting to get just a few bottles. It's one of the easiest, most affordable ways to store emergency water, and it takes up hardly any space. The Alexa Pure Emergency Water Bank includes 1 BPA-free liner, comes with a siphon pump for extracting water, provides easy-to-follow instructions, fits just about any bathtub, large or small, fills quickly in 30 minutes or less, holds up to 65 gallons of water, and keeps water fresh for up to 16 weeks, holds about 2 months of water for one person. A person can generally survive without water for about 3 days. However, the exact amount of time depends on many factors, including age, activity level, and overall health. Don't gamble with your life and well-being. Being prepared is easier than ever with Civilization Cycle and Alexa Pure.
A person who thinks all the time has nothing to think about except thoughts. So he loses touch with reality and lives in a world of illusions. By thoughts, I mean specifically chatter in the skull, perpetual and compulsive repetition of words, of reckoning and calculating. I'm not saying that thinking is bad. Like everything else, it's useful in moderation. A good servant, but a bad master. And all so-called civilized peoples have increasingly become crazy and self-destructive because through excessive thinking they have lost touch with reality. Most of us would have rather money than tangible wealth, and a great occasion is somehow spoiled for us unless photographed. And to read about it the next day in the newspaper is oddly more fun for us than the original event. This is a disaster. To get in touch with reality, there is an art of meditation, of what is called yoga or jhana in India, Chan in China, and Zen in Japan. It is the art of temporarily silencing the mind, of stopping the chatter in the skull. Of course, you can't force your mind to be silent. That would be like trying to smooth ripples in water with a flat iron. Water becomes clear and calm only when left alone.
never get left out in the cold. There is never a reason to ever let you or your family suffer. Instafire and Civilization Cycle are on a mission to make fire starting and off-grid living easy for everyone. You shouldn't have to be a mountain man to strike a flame and make a fire anytime, anywhere.
Okay, you
There
there?
you go. Yeah, we had some kind of internet connection issue.
Yeah, that's okay. That's the world we live in.
I think
It's
you were getting too deep.
It's, it's called computers. That happens all the time. So anyway, what I was saying is that the sea is enchanting, and so it's like I said, well, you got songs called the Enchanting Sea, and so myrrh is the sea, and it's enchanting, and so you put the two together, it becomes merchant. And so that's why we have merchants, and the chanting is a form of music. That's why you have to buy things with a bank note. And let's see. The other point I wanted to bring out is that the bank will levy your account, and one day your ship will come in. Well, everything is in our world is run by ships and by maritime law. So that's why you have a ship on everything. You have a scholarship, sportsmanship, a relationship, a dealership, a friendship, a fellowship, a hardship, apprenticeship, companionship, partnership, a membership, ownership, dictatorship. So what we want to know from you is, since you are on board the citizenship, don't rock the boat, mate.
Right.
Yeah.
So I guess the word ship literally means connection to the sea, or
That's right. That's right. Connection to the sea, and that's what you are. You are a maritime admiralty product. And so, with all of that, then you can begin to understand now banking. Because, like I said, where do you put your liquid asset? You put it in a bank. It's called a river bank. And what does a river bank do? It directs the flow of the current. See,
Yep.
And so another thing that people don't know, and that is the United States died in 1870. The United States of America, the way it was founded in 1776, it actually officially died on the world stage in the 1870s, early 1870, 1869. It was officially declared by the government, by the Supreme Court, to officially be deceased. So we're no longer living in the United States of America. And the reason why? Well, because there was a horrible, bloody civil war.
That's not true. I can't find any statutes to back up your claim that we had a civil war.
Yeah, I know that. There was some kind, but there was a terrible war and violent revolutions were taking place. And so the bottom line is today, we are a lot of things, but we're not united. California is not united with New York.
No.
And Delaware is not united with Alabama. So we're not united. We all have different governments. Every state has its own government. And so we're not united under one government. Every state has its own governmental system, its own governor, its own legislature, etc. So we're not united anymore. So the point I'm making is that you cannot call yourself a United States, because we're not. And so we're just different corporations that work with each other, but we're not united. California, you can do things in California you can't do in Texas. And so we're not united. So therefore, after that great conflagration that happened back in 1860s, we're not united any longer. So it was decided in 1870s that the United States of America should be quietly put to rest and buried forever, and it's gone. But the people aren't gone. The people are still here, and they want to eat every day, and they have families, and they want to build they want to build a life.
Yeah.
And there's millions and millions and millions of them. So if you don't have a country, well, you better come up with something, because the people are already here. And what are you going to do about all the people that are here? So what they decided to do in 1871 is, instead of having a United States of America, we would form a corporation, a company, a Delaware corporation, and it will be referred to as the United States Corporation, United States Incorporated.
I did not know that. So, I mean, I did know something about incorporating a business in Delaware specifically because they have no income tax.
That's right. Mm-hmm.
So they don't pay. I guess the corporation of the United States could pay themselves, but yeah.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter. The bottom line that matters is the fact that you are not living in the United States of America. You are living in a corporation like General Electric and Ford Motor Company and Eaton and Sears and what's the airline companies. The point I'm making here is that you're not living in America. You're living in a corporation. It's a company, a privately owned corporation. It's called the United States Corporation. It was incorporated under corporate law in 1871. And it's a privately owned corporation. So what you need to do is find out who owns this corporation called the United States Corporation. Now you're opening your mind to a whole new kind of thinking and you're not in America, land of the free and home of the brave. You're in a company.
Well, since you said that, I have two questions directly about that. Is it possible to find out on the original paperwork who filed as the owner? And two, if humans are products, can our corporation of the United States government sell us as a product to another corporation?
Of course they can. Of course they can. And they do it every day. And if you get your original birth certificate, not a certified copy, but if you can find your original birth certificate, it has to be given back to you because it belongs to you. It represents your body. And if you get your original birth certificate back, you will see that it's written on bank paper. It's written on bank security paper. All that little design around the outside edges is a security paper, like a bank security. And on the back of your birth certificate are all kinds of banks stamping it. It will have tons and tons of bank stamps on the back of your birth certificate, because your birth certificate is a certificate of manifest representing you as a maritime product, and you are worth on the New York Stock Exchange as a product right around $2 million. Some people are $6 million. And so every man, woman, and child in America is worth somewhere between $2 and $4 to $6 million on this New York Stock Exchange. And so you can go on the stock exchange as a way to do it, and basically, very fundamentally, there's a way to do it correctly, but I'm just giving you a fundamental quickie understanding.
Yeah.
You can go to one of these companies like Standard & Poor, or one of these companies that keeps track of people's securities and how much they're worth, etc. And you call them and tell them you were cleaning your grandmother's attic and you found a security and you wanted to know if it's still of value. and they will tell me, or they will say, okay, give me the security numbers on it. And so you go through and give them all the security information on the paperwork that you're holding in your hand. Then they will put that into the computer, and they will come back and say, yes, that belongs to Ransom Godwin. This is a security for this man, and they will give you your name. And you say, oh, okay, and how much is that worth? And they'll say, it could be 6 million, 4,500,000, 6.5 million. So therefore, you now know that you have a security on your name on the New York Stock Exchange, which is worth over $6 million. And so, how do you find out how much you're worth? Well, there's a way to do it. It's a whole ritual you have to go through. You have to know who to contact first and what codes to use, and then you have to go to this website and put that code in, and then it goes through the Federal Reserve, and then you got to put another code in.
Do they deduct your debt that they claim each person has when it goes through that department?
So the question was again, what?
Oh, I was asking, once it goes through the Federal Reserve at that point, do they deduct out of your worth the debt they say that every human being has at birth?
No, not at all. No. And so there's plenty of information out there that explains all of this. I'm just giving you the Reader's Digest version.
Right.
A little quickie thing. If you want some real information, I'll tell you where to go get it. And you do your own research and reading, and you'll figure it out. But yeah. I'm just telling you things that, generally speaking, people are not aware of.
No, I
now, let me go on. Let me go on. So if you are now not living in the United States of America, but you're living in the United States Corporation, first of all, if you come across the border from Mexico or Canada or whatever, you come across the border illegally, unlawfully, that's tantamount to you breaking into General Motors' warehouse. You are going into a privately owned corporation's property, and you are in there illegally and unlawfully.
Yeah.
So therefore, if you are making money and you come into this country or you come into this corporation and you're making money, but you're illegal here, but you're making money, therefore the corporation can put a lien on you. It's called a mechanic's lien. And what that basically means, if you're in construction, if you paint someone's house for them and they decide not to pay you, then you can go down and put a lien on that property, on that house, which means they cannot do anything with that house until they pay you. So if they sell that house, the first money goes to you. Why? Because you put a lien on the house. So therefore, if you come across the border into this corporation and you're working to make money, the corporation could put a mechanic's lien on you. And then you become known as an alien. An alien. No, you're not alien. They put a lien on you.
Right.
And so you are an alien. And so once you start to get the hang of what I'm talking about, the entire life you live is a business.
Yes.
And thank God your life is none of my business, and mine's none of your business, but it's a business. And so the bottom line, at the end of the day, you're not free. You are nothing more than a human resource, something to be bought and sold. We need oil, we need rubber, we need gasoline, we need steel, we need timber, and we need you. So you are a resource, a human resource. And so once you understand how the world really works, you're going to find out that there's a whole different world out there. And I brought up the subject of the courtroom. I said that's where the maritime admiralty hits you in the face with the law of the land.
Yeah.
Because when you walk into a courtroom, the people sitting in the audience of the courtroom are sitting out here where the audience is. And then there's a gate, a fence. And in the middle of the fence is a gate. And so when the lawyer comes in, he walks up to the gate and he puts his hand on that piece of wood that crosses over the top of the gate. It's a piece of wood that holds the gate together. And so it's called a bar.
Yeah.
But you are not licensed to pass the bar. You don't have a bar license. You're not past the bar. Only the lawyer can pass the bar. So he opens the gate, which is a floodgate. It's a water gate. It's a floodgate.
Yeah, the water gate. Yep.
That's right. And so it's like in the canals, the great canals of the world, when they open up the gate, the water comes rushing in, and it lifts the ship up higher, and then it closes the gate, and then you go a little while, opens up the next gate, and you're in deep water. Yeah, you're in deep water.
So does this all originate from space and being fluid? Like they always refer to space as being a fluid. It's fluid. It's not like empty. It's fluid. So, you know, and then you were talking about everything that flies or goes anywhere or delivers things is a ship or a shipment. And they always call, you know, it's a spaceship. So
that's right. And so the Earth is referred to as a space vessel. It's a vessel in space. We are the ship in space, the Earth.
That's right.
And as the Earth goes through space, we're sailing through the universe, so to speak. And so, therefore, you know, we are a vessel. And this is why you have blood vessels, because the blood, it keeps you alive, keeps the product alive. And so you are a maritime admiralty product. So you have a blood vessel, and the vessel pumps water through your system, and it's red, so we call it blood. So, I mean, we could go on for another 5 hours talking about all of the intricacies of law and courts and
words
and banks and all of that kind of stuff, and money, and how we are nothing more than slaves. But that's all we are, is slaves. We've been created by someone. Someone created us to be slaves. And so that's why we all act like we do. We all act like we're slaves, because we are.
Yeah.
And you don't think so? You do something without asking permission.
No,
I know
it. I know for a fact I've been treated like property by our corporation of the United States before.
Yeah.
And actually, you're going in the right direction. That you know drives my mind is actually who are the people that we are slaves for? Are they still around? You know. And, and this, when I listen to Zecharia Sitchin's version of you know, like in his books of Genesis and how we were formed, it makes way more sense to me than any of the other things, because I'm thinking about biological people. They're coming here. They have all the same desires and flaws and things that seem to have been given to us. And then the simple fact that every single primitive people on this earth have always been fascinated with gold, even though to them it would have no value, because it's really only a technological value, and they didn't have technology, supposedly.
Yep. And the Egyptians said that gold and silver were the two most important. In the ancient world, even gold and silver were the two most important precious metals. Why? Because the sun is golden and the moon is silver.
Wow.
That's why gold, and we call it the golden sun. The sun is gold and the moon is silver. So we have gold and silver, the sun and the moon. You know, our money goes back to a Roman goddess named Juno Moneta. Juno Moneta, like Juneau, Alaska.
Yeah.
So Juno Moneta was a goddess in Rome, and she always had her temple up on the hill in Rome. It was called Capitoline Hill, where Caesar officiated over the Roman Senate. And so today we still have, you know, Caesar is up on the hill, where he's officiating before the Senate. And so we are the Roman Empire, still the same old rotten,
Yes.
dirty Roman Empire Senate.
And that's why in D.C. they have George Washington looking like Caesar, and he's looking up at the 7 stars there.
Yeah. Yep. So once you begin to wake up and then you see that, the Mississippi River is considered the Nile, the new Nile in Egypt. And so down the Nile River, you have the different cities that are on the Nile in Egypt. You have Cairo, Egypt, and Memphis, Tennessee.
Which has their pyramid there too.
Yeah, you get the pyramid there and the Royal Arch and all that stuff. It's all there because the Mississippi is the new Nile. And my God, the old world order was Rome. Rome was the old world order in Europe, and Caesar ruled Europe's old world order. When he wasn't in Rome, he was in Britannia, which we call England today.
Yeah.
It was called Britannia. And in Britannia, the home office for the Roman Empire, Caesar's base of operation in Britannia, was York, England, Y-O-R-K, York, England. And so when Caesar moved into the New World, that's us, the New World, he moved into something called New York. And New York became known as the Empire State.
That's right.
They even have an Empire State Building. And so this is why in Star Wars and The Empire Strikes Back and Darth Vader.
Or even Stan Lee, the cartoon guy with Spider-Man and all that. It's all they never say New York. He goes to Empire University. And anytime they refer to the city, they always say the Empire.
That's right. That's exactly right. Why? Because that's where the United Nations is. The UN is in New York.
Yeah, right.
The United Nations was concocted by the Rockefellers, the Warburgs, the J. Par, the what's his name, Morgan Guaranteed Chase and Chase Manhattan Bank. So it's all out of New York, the New York families, and so is the mafia and all the other underworld operations out of New York, the Empire State, which New York represents the Catholic Church, or the Roman government, the Roman Empire in America, so Catholic Church.
Here's you a question about 9/11. Okay, so I heard you on the Camelot project, and you were talking about the constant 2 pillars and either the sun or the pyramid coming up between that. And I rewatched that again, and I thought about an association I never thought of before, because recently I made a video kind of insinuating that. But they took down the 2 towers, and in between it, in its place, is a giant, like an obelisk with the pyramidal shaped thing in there. And I'm wondering if that represents the return of whatever it is that they've been waiting on all this time.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's exactly what's happening. And those 2 towers, why 2 towers? If you go on the web to say Google image, go to the image where you only get pictures.
Yeah.
And you put in twin towers, you will see that all over the world, in every country and every plot of land on the face of the earth, churches, insurance buildings, banks, all these major buildings around the earth, they're always double. They're always 2 towers. All the big churches always have 2 towers. All the banking have 2 towers.
Yeah.
You would be surprised at the thousands of pictures that are on Google of twin towers. There are always 2. And so there's a reason for twin towers, but most people don't know there is. Nobody even notices anything anymore because it hasn't got anything to do with Paris Hilton or drinking beer.
Yeah.
So nobody knows anything about it. But I've been studying the world of the occult for 60 years. And I can tell you there are thousands of buildings around the world, churches, insurance companies, federal buildings, state buildings, especially cathedrals all around the earth, and they're all double towers, two towers. So there's a reason why the two towers. There's a reason. They don't just build them all over the world for nothing.
Yes, and not only that, they threw the name of the new building in everyone's face. So it's like the occult is no longer being a cult. Now people are just so stupid that they don't see what they're bragging about in their face because it's One World Trade Center now.
Yeah, one world.
Yeah, that's
one world.
That's what made me think that when I was listening to you talking about this person, this entity, maybe it's an Anunnaki. I don't know what it is. I was kind of hoping you would shed some light on that because it insinuates in so many different ways. But it seems like no matter what I study, it always tracks back to Samaria, and their concepts there of what they were saying of who they were worshiping. And
yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, we could go on for hours and hours and hours. I could talk to you for the next 8 hours about all kinds of stuff and government and religion and educational
I'm
facilities.
past the religion. I don't know why, but from a young kid, when they told me that there's one God, and then I'm reading the first of it, and it's saying, "Let us make man in our image." I ask questions, and then later on in my life, when I'm an adult, I see these old films of Zachariah Sitchin and you and other people that have been telling, like the whole time I was wondering and ignorant and running around the streets, living that Paris Hilton beer life. I always had something bothering me about everything, like the feeling that I didn't know shit about nothing. And then, of course, the more I know, the more I realize I don't know anything.
Yeah, well, one day when you get to be my age, you may not, but if you ever get to be my age at 77, you will look back on your life, and if you have studied every day, 24 hours a day, all of the intricacies of life and government and world you live in, and study it continually and perfect your knowledge and do the research, when you finally reach about 80 years old, it will finally dawn on you that you don't know nothing. Period.
Well,
you don't know shit.
What do you think about this concept in today's new reality? With we live in the idiocracy world. I'm pretty sure they're about to do the major reset of information again, like we've seen in the past. The Library of Alexandria, all of that. I'm pretty sure they're about to do it now. I
wouldn't be surprised.
They just turn the internet off, burn the books, tear down the statues, and then we're reset. I mean, they could tell us anything from that point. I mean, like our grandchildren, they can make up whatever story they want to make up.
Of course they can. And they tell the little children, the children don't know any different, and the parents don't know any different, so they're not going to get in the way. And then when the little children grow up and the parents are gone, then they will teach their children, and then their children will grow up, and they will teach their children, and before you know it, we will have 7.5 billion people on the earth, collectively with an IQ of 40.
Wow.
So nobody knows nothing, nobody understands nothing, and everybody's pompous and arrogant and knows the truth and got the whole truth, and they know everything there is to know about everything, and then you find out the entire earth is lying in the power of the wicked one, like the Bible says. The entire world is in the hands and the clutches of the darkness, and the whole world is lying in the power of the devil. The entire super race of the world is totally ignorant, ill-informed, unread, and have no idea in the world where we're going, where we've come from, or what we're supposed to do while we're here. Nobody knows. Just go drink your beer, watch TV, and shut up.
Well, actually, what my point was, though, is like in today's world now, we got YouTube and Twitter and all this stuff. You and your videos and your lectures and all of the things that you've done and people like you've done are the new book. of the 21st century for morons. I mean, like, even for me, like, that I was never well read. I really used to hate reading when I was young. Now I can't get enough of it. I'm reading everything. I'm watching everything now, you know. But now in today's world, you are the new resource. You are the new you're the new book.
Well, I
How do you
appreciate
feel
that.
about that? I mean,
I don't see myself as very important. I never have. I always say I feel better saying that I'm just an ordinary man pursuing extraordinary knowledge. I don't see myself as special or important in any way. I'm just another man like anybody else, and I've just been doing this kind of study and talking, for 60 years. I was talking about the secret societies and the Illuminati and Knights Templars and international banking cartels and the occultism and lies in religion and churches and where the religions came from. I was doing all of that back in 1960 before you and most of the audience was even born.
that's right.
And
That really trips me out about that too. And a main question I kind of wanted to ask you, because you personally did this to me, so I'm wondering, who did it to you when you were young, like you're saying, and you started on this journey of research, and you first realized that logos and designs and everything, it's like a hidden language all around you telling you stuff. And once you learned that, though, you couldn't unsee it now. It's
No. There's no way you unlearn anything. You don't see. Now, once you've seen something, somebody shows you a picture of your girlfriend with another guy. There's no way you're going to ever forget that picture.
No,
you can't unsee it. You saw it, and it's too late. And so once I began to see the hypocrisy and symbols and emblems and words and terms, the way one of the first things that got me started when I was 9 years old, I know that I was led into this work that I do. It wasn't my work. I was given this to do. I was led into it, but I will just tell you this experience that when I was about 9 years old, I was raised in a Catholic family. And when you're Catholic and you're 9 years old, you're heading for what is called confirmation. Confirmation is a particular church service for 9 and 10-year-old children, boys and girls. And it's called confirmation, where you go to church one night and you are confirmed a Catholic, which is ludicrous, confirming a 9-year-old.
Yeah, they don't understand what they're.
I don't even know how to read yet, and I'm being confirmed as a Catholic. But that's the way the Catholic Church works. They get the children when they're young and keep them stupid, and that's it.
Well, my grandma's 84 years old, and all of the stuff I talk about like the Democratic Party or the worship of the sun everywhere, including the book she's tripping on, she thinks I'm a complete lunatic.
Yeah, well, I know, but that's the same thing Jesus said. What they have done to me, they will do to you. If they had listened to me, they would listen to you. And so they want Barabbas. Give us Barabbas. We don't want the truth. We're not interested in hearing the truth. Give us Barabbas. But why? Because he's a criminal. He's a drunk. He's a criminal. He's a whoremongering, drunk criminal. And so
he's entertaining.
And he's like we are. He's like us. He's a big, lying, filthy criminal, and so are we. We're a bunch of imbecilic morons. So we like to have somebody that's like us. We want somebody who's like us because we like him.
Wow.
But
I thought of them like entertainment. The people of that time picked entertainment over the truth.
Well, they still do today.
Yeah, that's why I thought of it. It's like they would rather see Jesus crucified and let the criminal go that's going to produce more entertainment. So they get double the entertainment of darkness and just block out the light.
Well, then that shouldn't surprise you that people turn against you. That shouldn't surprise you because that's what,
Oh, she's a sweetheart. She just thinks I'm insane. That's all.
I know, but that's because all her life she's been trained to think a certain way, and it's called cognitive dissonance.
Yeah.
The word, if you need to remember it, the word is cognitive dissonance.
Oh yeah, that's the buzzword of today. They've even tried to use that on people that are telling the truth now. They tell them
I
that
know.
they have it.
Yeah, well, what it means is that if you've been born and raised and believe something, and one day when you get to be 70 years old and you find out that what you've been believing all your life wasn't true, it was a lie, you don't listen. You won't listen to it. You'll stick with the idea that you know the truth, and that somebody is trying to show you something that's a lie. And so, light is equated with brilliance.
Do you think that's inherent in human beings as being created a slave? That there's a Stockholm syndrome built into our DNA to
Oh,
not want to
heavens,
believe
yes.
that?
Heavens, yes. Heavens, yes. I mean, my Lord. That's the way it's always been. That's the way it is now, and that's the way it will
Yeah,
always
because
be.
that's always bothered me about human beings is we don't. I even had a guest on last night, and he's a straight arrow, down to earth, only believes what kind of the supposedly news stuff, but even he thinks we're aliens because we don't fit into the environment in any way, shape, or form. It's like we have.
Well, I tend to think that too. I think we are aliens.
Yeah, and
We
we have
don't fit into the environment.
instincts that don't belong on Earth.
That's right. We certainly do. We certainly do have all kinds of reasons to think that we humans are aliens. We're the only ones on the earth that don't fit here. And so all of that is very true. I mean, I was in business for many years. I was in business with Zachariah Sitchin. I financed him to go around the world. I got him on television and radio, and helped get his books published and promoted him on the speaking circuit.
Yeah.
So I was in business. I was in business with him. I sat and talked with him for hours and hours and hours. So
yeah, I just literally, just to refresh myself, I watched your personal interview with Zachariah Sitchin again, and he would have been like the another person I would wished I could have talked to in my lifetime, but unfortunately I didn't. I think what woke me up in this world was when my kid was born. I had to start thinking different in order to protect him. And that just led to me finding out one thing after another thing, and then that whole avalanche of knowledge. And then, of course, that occupies my time now. I don't care about money. I don't care about things like that. I know I'm temporary, but I would like to reach a conscious level where I think I might know a little hint of maybe is there what I'm here for, other than to serve someone else's purpose.
Yep, I know all about it. Yep, I know all about it. I was your age too. I always tell young people, I spoke to universities and colleges all over the country and all over the world, and I always tell young, college-age kids and high schoolers that I have an advantage over you because, you are 15 years old. Yeah, so was I know. And then when you get to be 20 years old, and I know I was 20 years old too. So whatever it is that you've done, I did it too.
And well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. I feel like you did it to me, though. Like one day I got on the internet because finally I wasn't so broke. I actually had internet, and I click on, I start watching videos, and then I have an idea. I look for an idea, and then I find this guy Jordan Maxwell is telling me about everything I know. I don't know shit, and the more I listen, the more I realize he's totally correct. I haven't heard none of this stuff before, And then from there, I just kept finding out more people, more stuff, and yeah, that's exactly, I think, like your most profound statement on earth is that we don't know jack about the way things are. And
that's exactly right.
So my main question, I guess, for you is this dark one: is this a biological thing or a spiritual entity, or both?
I think that we are living on this earth with biological personages. I think they are persons. I think that there are intelligent individual creatures that we call angels or poltergeists, or
Are you talking
which-
about, I mean, like, I want to give it a name. Are we saying Anunnaki? Because that's who I
Well,
picture.
the Anunnaki are supposedly actual EBEs. The government, the U.S. government calls them EBEs, extraterrestrial biological entities.
Yeah.
So they're extraterrestrial, but they're biological. And they're not human, they're entities. So their EBEs are extraterrestrial creatures that have come here from somewhere, and they are smart enough to get here, so that means they're smarter than you are, because you didn't go there, they came here.
Yeah.
And when I have people who always ask me when I'm speaking before audiences, they always ask me if there were alien life forms from outer space, if they were here, why don't they show themselves to us? Why don't they land and come out in the public and show themselves to us so we will know and communicate with us?
They'd lose their power over us, wouldn't they?
Yeah. Well, no, my answer is always the same. My answer to that is, look it, I'm human, like you are.
Yeah.
And I'm ashamed to be in your company and talk to you myself because you're so damn stupid. So I'm ashamed to even be in your company because you're so incredibly ignorant, self-centered, egotistical, ill-informed, unread, and downright pompous and arrogant.
Right.
So I don't want to talk with you myself. Now, why would any creature from a million years in the future, that's been around for a million years, you've only been around for a few years, suppose there are creatures coming here from another world out there in space, and they have been around, their culture has been around for 1 million years. How much more smarter do you think they're going to be than you? And they are smart enough to come here. Well, you're not smart enough to go there.
That's right. But I feel like they gave us something, and I feel like my whole environment, my everything about life today is to prevent human beings to get into that point that they were right before the Tower of Babel, where they actually had the capability of using the genes we were given, like our mental capacity, maybe even life, like our lifespan, because we got the little caps on our DNA to not let us live past 120 years. So is that why they're dumbing us down so much with GMO and vaccines and spraying stuff in the air and electromagnetic, torture, all of it? Yeah. It's just to keep us from hitting a spiritual singularity where we could actually understand these people that made us. Like, I mean, we would no longer be cattle. I heard a whole argument there in the book of Enki between Enlil and Enki about that they had rules not to have slaves, and Enki was telling them, well, this won't be a slave. This will just be a helper. But then, but then later they got mad because, he didn't like the way we were sounding and we were building shims and there's nothing that they couldn't do that we couldn't do now. So yeah, it's like we got mentally retarded and it's happening again.
Yeah, of course. And, it even says that in the Bible, in the book of Genesis. It says, after the God says, come, let us, whoever us is, come, let us make man in our image and after our likeness. Well, first of all, later on it says, and God said to himself, look at man. See, he has become as one of us, knowing good and evil. Meaning, look at, you put your DNA into this creature and made him like you. So he looks like you and thinks like you. Well, the problem is he thinks like you, and you're a criminal, and so is he. And he's building rockets and laser equipment and atomic bombs and all kinds of stuff. He's like you. He's like a demon. He's like an angel from another world. This guy is smart. They're putting together DNA and recreating all kinds of creatures and building rockets and going to the moon. See what you did? You should have just left these chumps like the Neanderthal apes that they were. You should have just left them alone, because now you created a serious problem and you're going to have to deal with them. And you better deal with them now because they're getting smart.
Yeah.
They're putting nuclear rocket heads onto the rockets. They're coming out here into space, and pretty soon you're going to have to deal with them. And don't think you're going to come with your flying saucers and your UFOs to scare them. They're not scared. They're getting a whole defense system set up with lasers that can shoot you out of the air. You've created a problem.
Yeah.
And
well, at the same time, it feels like that, when I look around at these experiments that the elite are doing, it all adds up to terraforming, but obviously they are not terraforming for the human being.
Oh, no. They're doing something, but it ain't for you. They're just going to eat you. Anyway, I'm going to have to go.
All right, Mr. Maxwell, like I said, this is literally, like, in my opinion, one of my life goals was to be able to talk to you in person. So I really am honored and appreciate you coming on my channel.
Well, I appreciate it, and put it out there. Maybe somebody will learn something.
I'd like to tell you about the strangest secret in the world. Success is the progressive realization of a worthy ideal. What's wrong with men today? Men simply don't think. It's about this that I want to talk with you. Men simply don't think. We live today in a golden age. This is an era that man has looked forward to, dreamed of, and worked toward for thousands of years. But since it's here, we pretty well take it for granted. We in America are particularly fortunate to live in the richest land that ever existed on the face of the earth, a land of abundant opportunity for everyone. But do you know what happens? Well, let's take 100 men who start even at the age of 25. Do you have any idea what will happen to those men by the time they're 65? These 100 men who all start even at the age of 25 believe they're going to be successful. If you ask any one of these men if he wanted to be a success, he'd tell you he did. And you'd notice that he was eager toward life, that there was a certain sparkle to his eye, an erectness to his carriage, and life seemed like a pretty interesting adventure to him. But by the time they're 65, 1 will be rich. 4 will be financially independent. 5 will still be working. 54 will be broke. Men simply don't think. Men simply don't think. Now think a moment. Out of the 100, only 5 make the grade. Now why do so many fail? Men simply don't think. What has happened to the sparkle that was there when they were 25? What's become of the dreams, the hopes, the plans? And why is there such a large disparity between what these men intended to do and what they actually accomplished? When we say about 5% achieve success, we have to define success. And here's the best definition I've ever been able to find. Success is the progressive realization of a worthy ideal. If a man is working toward a predetermined goal and knows where he's going, that man is a success. If he's not doing that, he's a failure. Success is the progressive realization of a worthy ideal. The opposite of courage in our society is not cowardice. It is conformity, conformity, conformity. Men simply don't think. And there you have the trouble today. It's conformity, people acting like everyone else without knowing why, without knowing where they're going. Men simply don't think. Now think of it. In America right now, men simply don't think. And most of them are broke. They're dependent on someone else for life's necessities. Now, we learn to read by the time we're 7. We learn to make a living by the time we're 25. Usually by that time, we're not only making a living, we're supporting a family. And yet, by the time we're 65, we haven't learned how to become financially independent in the richest land that has ever been known. Why? We conform. Men simply don't think. And the trouble is that we're acting like the wrong percentage group, the 95 who don't succeed. Now, why do these people conform? Well, they really don't know. These people believe that their lives are shaped by circumstances, by things that happen to them, by exterior forces. They're outer-directed people. A survey was made one time that covered a lot of men, working men, and these men were asked, why do you work? Why do you get up in the morning? 19 out of 20 had no idea. If you ask them, they'll say, well, everyone goes to work in the morning, and that's the reason they do it, because everyone else is doing it. Men simply don't think. Now let's get back to our definition of success. Who succeeds? The only person who succeeds is the person who is progressively realizing a worthy ideal. Is the person who says, I'm going to become this, and then begins to work toward that goal. I'll tell you who the successful people are. A success is the school teacher who's teaching school because that's what he or she wants to do. The success is the woman who's a wife and mother because she wanted to become a wife and mother and is doing a good job of it. The success is the man who runs the corner gas station because that was his dream. That's what he wanted to do. The success is the successful salesman who wants to become a top-notch salesman and grow and build with his organization. A success is anyone who is doing deliberately a predetermined job because that's what he decided to do deliberately. But only 1 out of 20 does that. That's why today there isn't really any competition unless we make it for ourselves. Instead of competing, all we have to do is create. Men simply don't think. All we have to do is create. You know, for 20 years, I looked for the key which would determine what would happen to a human being. Was there a key I wanted to know which would make the future a promise that we could foretell to a large extent? Was there a key that would guarantee a person's becoming successful if he only knew about it and knew how to use it? Well, there is such a key, and I found it. All we have to do is create. Have you ever wondered why so many men work so hard and honestly without ever achieving anything in particular, and others don't seem to work hard and yet seem to get everything? They seem to have the magic touch. You've heard them say that about someone. Everything he touches turns to gold. And have you ever noticed that a man who becomes successful tends to continue to become successful? And on the other hand, have you noticed how a man who's a failure tends to continue to fail? Well, it's because of goals. Some of us have goals, some don't. People with goals succeed because they know where they're going. It's that simple. All we have to do is create. Think of a ship leaving a harbor, and think of it with the complete voyage mapped out and planned. The captain and crew know exactly where it's going and how long it'll take. It has a definite goal. Now, 9,999 times out of 10,000, it will get to where it started out to get. Now let's take another ship, just like the first, only let's not put a crew on it or a captain at the helm. Let's give it no aiming point, no goal, no destination. We just start the engines and let it go. I think you'll agree with me that if it gets out of the harbor at all, it'll either sink or wind up on some deserted beach, a derelict. It can't go anyplace because it has no destination and no guidance, and it's the same with a human being. Now let's get back to the strangest secret in the world, the story that I wanted to tell you today. Why do men with goals succeed in life and men without them fail? Well, let me tell you something which, if you really understand it, will alter your life immediately. If you understand completely what I'm going to tell you from this moment on, your life will never be the same again. You will suddenly find that good luck just seems to be attracted to you. The things you want just seem to fall in line, and from now on you won't have the problems, the worries, the gnawing lump of anxiety that perhaps you've experienced before. Doubt, fear, well, they'll be things of the past. Here's the key to success and the key to failure. We become what we think about. All we have to do is create. Now let me say that again. We become what we think about. All we have to do is create. Throughout all history, the great wise men and teachers, philosophers and prophets have disagreed with one another on many different things. It's only on this one point that they are in complete and unanimous agreement. A man's life is what his thoughts make of it. Everything comes if a man will only wait. I brought myself by long meditation to the conviction that a human being with a settled purpose must accomplish it, and that nothing can resist a will that will stake even existence for its fulfillment. A man is what he thinks about all day long. Human beings can alter their lives by altering their attitudes of mind. We need only in cold blood act as if the thing in question were real, and it will become infallibly real by growing into such a connection with our life that it will become real. It will become so knit with habit and emotion that our interest in it will be those which characterize belief. If you only care enough for a result, you will almost certainly attain it. If you wish to be rich, you will be rich. If you wish to be learned, you will be learned. If you wish to be good, you will be good. Only you must then really wish these things and wish them exclusively, and not wish at the same time 100 other incompatible things just as strongly. All we have to do is create. If thou canst believe, all things are possible to him that believeth. This is one of the greatest laws in the universe. Fervently do I wish I had discovered it as a very young man. It dawned upon me much later in life, and I found it to be one of the greatest, if not my greatest discovery outside of my relationship to God. The great law, briefly and simply stated, is that if you think in negative terms, you will get negative results. If you think in positive terms, you will achieve positive results. That is the simple fact, the basis of an astonishing law of prosperity and success. In 3 words, believe and succeed. All we have to do is create. Men simply don't think. All we have to do is create.